Hi, I'm Erica from my phone. Welcome to another video. I wanted to talk about Global All-Stars. For those of you who don't know, I have been enjoying Drag Race as of late. I met Sasha Velour last year at my alma mater. She did a performance and that actually made me get into Drag Race for the first time. So I've now seen season 9, season 6, season 12, and season 16. And now I'm watching my first All-Stars ever, which is Global All-Stars. I am also fairly up to date on All-Stars 9. I did watch all the pit stops for it, but I didn't know if I really needed to watch the whole season. I do want to make a point that although I am new to watching Drag Race, I have seen drag in several different countries, including obviously the United States since I'm from here, but also in Germany, in France, in Belgium. So I do have some knowledge of international drag. As we wrap up August, I wanted to do a check-in on what the season is shaping up to be. Does it seem like it's a good thing, a bad thing? And I think it's a mixed bag. So I'll be getting into what I think is good about the season, what I think is bad, and what's also just kind of random, and sharing my hopes for future episodes. If you like this video, I'll probably do a monthly check-in up until the season ends. Also, spoilers ahead, so I know who the final 10 queens are in the show, so if you are not at that point in the franchise yet, watch and then come back here. Starting off with the good, I really like getting to meet each and every one of these queens. Again, I have not seen any of them before, not even Alyssa. I'm fairly new to watching Drag Race, and I'm happy to be here for it, but it's cool getting to know each and every one of these queens as they step out in their fashion, as they show some of their personality, and really, I don't know, show off. I forgot to mention in the original recording, but I do highly recommend Balak Boy's guide to Global All-Stars. He's watched all of the seasons of these queens and has watched all the international franchises, so he knows going in everything about everyone. So I highly recommend you check that video out if you do want a crash course guide before watching the rest of the Global All-Stars. The fashion this season is shaping up to be fairly good, with the exception of some of the Vol looks. I am overall pleased to see how drag is influenced in different regions of the world, how it is shown. I've really loved seeing especially ones that are not more of a Western influence. It's been really cool to see how people take this concept and move it into their own way. I also think it's great that we are getting to meet queens and also familiarize ourselves with potentially other franchises that we didn't even know existed or hadn't gotten around to watching. If you are a fan of watching a lot of Drag Race, maybe this will encourage you to check out some of the more international seasons, maybe some of the less watched seasons, and it'll also familiarize yourself with them if they are traveling internationally and doing international gigs, if you want to see them live and support them financially in that way. I also do like at least the attempts on the surface to level the playing field. We do have queens coming from all different cultures, including language backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, geographic backgrounds. And I do like that for the girl group challenge, for example, they were able to write in whatever language they wanted to. They had a mini challenge that was dance, so that was international. The third look has to be using these specific materials that were there, so it's not like you had a bunch of supplies you brought from home for that. So I do like those attempts, at least on the surface, of leveling the playing field. I also like some of the humor of the queens. I do really like Kitty Scott Claus. I do like a British accent. I do like some British humor. And Kitty reminds me a lot of Gemma Collins. I know that Kitty did Gemma on Snatch Game before, so it makes perfect sense why I think that. But I really enjoy the confessionals from Kitty, as well as some from Tessa, even though I have a complex relationship, I think, with Tessa, because I see how delusional she is, and she kind of barks at the wrong tree, per se, you know, calling the kettle black, and maybe not saying always the right things at the right time, but she is from the German-speaking world, and as someone who is just living in Germany for a year, I get it, I see it. They don't always know what is the best thing to say. Now, I hate to really go in on this franchise because I do like the concept in theory, and I think could be improved upon if we get rid of these bad things. But I think some of these bad things are overshadowing the good that the season could provide. And first and foremost, I want to start with talking about the native English preference of judging. For episode 4, every queen from a native English speaking country has a win. And only one win has gone to someone outside of that. English preferencing is very strong, and I also know that RuPaul has mainly hosted most of those franchises as well, so there is a bit of rapport there. So there is a bit of disadvantage for queens who have never been in front of RuPaul, have not shown their style of drag to RuPaul and the other judges, because then they have to basically just learn who you are, which is different than a regular All-Star season where RuPaul has judged all the queens that have been there. So it makes it a lot easier for her to understand what they're going for in their All-Stars season and also know how they want to set them up for success or for just production and storyline in this current season. So far, the two queens who have sashayed away are both from countries that don't speak English as a native language, and those are in challenges that don't really require them to know English fluently. It makes me quite nervous for an acting or a comedy challenge or something that requires a lot of speaking in the future if they're going to be able to judge that fairly when they are doing it internationally or using different styles of humor. I don't see how really at this point someone who doesn't speak English as a first language is going to win a comedy or acting challenge. There's also definitely an emphasis on the West. Now, I did look up all the different Drag Race franchises, and for the most part, all of them have a member here. The two that I saw that distinctly weren't there were Thailand, who is still having seasons, and Chile, which is not having seasons. I think also Drag Race Holland had a franchise, but I think they also got canceled semi-recently. Again, I have not watched any of the international seasons yet, so I can't talk about any of the dynamics for that, but it does feel very West-focused, but that is also, again, a reflection of what franchises already exist and also potentially what legal and cultural workings are at play for those shows to be able to exist. Because in many countries globally, it's not safe to be a drag queen. I mean, even in America, it's starting to not be safe either. I do think that this show does suffer still from an emphasis on the West, specifically these countries that were former British colonies or are Britain themselves, and it makes it a bit challenging when someone's trying to do a reference to their heritage or their country or their culture and you're not getting it. I think it's also odd in the year of 2024, in 16 years since Drag Race first existed, that we are still not getting any understanding of non-binary references and how gender non-conforming drag can be. RuPaul specifically said that Tina needed to feminize their figure. Also that Miranda's runway did not make sense as a story. It made more sense as a story than the majority of the runways out there. I don't know what to tell you, that's just factually incorrect. It's clearly Baby Boy Blue going into, I don't know, prepubescent girl pink, and then going into the fully formed non-binary adult vibe and not putting ourselves in either box as an adult. As a runway, it made perfect sense, and it just completely slayed the challenge. So I don't get that at all. I know RuPaul in the past has definitely had controversies surrounding treating trans and non-binary contestants. So I know it's not a surprise to anyone, but I think it was very odd for it to be very clearly shown here on the show. There's also a bit of non-equity in terms of resources. As Miranda even mentioned in a confessional, Brazil does not have as many resources as, the United States or the UK or some other European country, which means that it might mean that the drag runways are not necessarily as strong or as expensive or as luxurious, but that doesn't mean it's bad drag at all. And it also shows in confessionals people who have had to definitely work really hard at their craft versus people who are kind of just riding easy and breezy. Not me being shady if I add cheesy, but I think there is something to say about queens that are very clearly working hard at doing something and clearly have that talent versus queens that are kind of knowing their lane and staying in it and doing it great, but are not necessarily as much challenging themselves or working really hard to make something wow. And that's a common critique I have of many queens in a season, particularly younger queens that are just like, yeah, I'm vibing, I'm here. I just became a queen on TikTok, and, power to you if you were getting a following or everything. But especially when I hear that they don't know how to sew or that they just kind of, do a little dance and, shake a little booty and they're like, yeah, that's all I need. Good for you, but that doesn't mean that I'm wowed by you. I'm just entertained. Now I wanted to get into some of the random thoughts I have that I think complicate the season or are just little things I picked out as I went along. I think the first two guest judges were wonderful in that it was someone that a queen could potentially connect to. It was a real big missed opportunity for Galavero to not get to lip sync in front of Donna. And that makes me really nervous about Galavero's chances of going really far in the competition, because as I see it now, Galavero is one of the most talented queens there. and I would love to see her do fantastically in this season. But the fact that they chose Vanity Vane over her, I don't agree with that, and it also left us not getting the incredible lip sync that Gallavero would have given for that. And we were left with what the show was allowing us to be thinking of as a mad lip sync. So I think that was a real missed opportunity, especially because Gallavero did a great job with the pole dancing. While I like the first two because we have those connection moments, or at least the potential connection moments, I think the two most recent guest judges have made no sense. Don't get me wrong, I love Matt Rogers, and Ross Matthews is also there. But they didn't make sense for the challenge. We could have some fashion icon, an international fashion icon, someone who has done stuff at Paris or Milan or somewhere. You could have anyone that's an international fashion icon or even relevant to the James Bond franchises be there guest judging. It would be lovely, as they do in regular seasons, to have someone who is knowledgeable about what we're talking about. Same with the girl group challenges. Why did we not have a musician? None of the Spice Girls showed up. Ross Matthews just is there instead. I mean, save him for a comedy challenge. Save him for something where he's relevant. He's not known for being a singer, and I don't think it makes any sense for him to be there. And especially with it being global all-stars, the fact that we already have 3 Americans on the panel routinely, permanently. And I like Jamal Sims. He's lovely and great to be there. But it does not make sense that we have 3 American judges and then the 4th guest judge is also American. It would shock me if they can't find anyone who is relevant to any of the other franchises to be able to be there to help judge in those situations, especially people who would be relevant to the actual challenges. Why are we giving the girl group challenge to someone who's there for comedy? Heck, even Carson Kressley for the fashion thing. He does do style stuff. You should have people there that are non-American and people who are relevant to the challenges at hand, just like we normally do in other seasons. So I don't know why it's different now. I also want to talk about how weird the season is for Alyssa Edwards. The thing is, she can't go home early because that makes no sense. She's very talented. A lot of the girls look up to her. She's been there, done that, and is here now to really show off. But the thing is, it's kind of like Roxy Andrews on All Stars 9. It feels weird if she wins, but it feels weird if she doesn't win either. To leave a poor taste in my mouth, if, we're finally doing a global All Stars, we have people from all across the world, and the one American they cast is the one that wins. It feels weird. It feels wrong, really. And it's not Alyssa Edwards' fault. I think she's a great pick for this season. It seems like she's getting along great with the other queens. It seems like they all have really appreciated her being there. But it feels weird if she were to win because, the American winning in an international season doesn't really scream, oh, we're really thinking about other cultures and really taking them into account in her decisions. I'll be honest, I don't think Queen should have shared that win, personally. It was a good lip sync from both of them, but I think there was a clear victor on it. And so it seems like they are going to favorite Alyssa a bit, but I can't see how she wins without extreme backlash about the fact, you're trying to incorporate other queens into this season from different franchises, and you're going to have the one American queen win. If she doesn't win, it's also going to be a bit of a backlash of being like, oh, well, she was the clear front runner, and then she doesn't win. Why is that? So at this point, I definitely see her being in the finale. Whether she wins is really how it's edited. I don't know how the final format will be. But yeah, I think it's a really odd situation to have an American queen there, especially because it's her 3rd time competing. She's competing in RuPaul twice already. And also because she was selected out of all the American Drag Race contestants, which even though there's been plenty of Drag Race contestants in all the franchises, the American franchise has been around the longest. It's had 16 regular seasons as well as all-star seasons. So they had a lot of people that they could have potentially picked. So it means that it was much more of a selective process to get the American there. And so it kind of puts her a little bit at an advantage of being like, I've already survived that selection process. I have a better chance of going far. I see her definitely making the finale. I think it will be wild if she doesn't. But I can't see her winning without immediate backlash. Additionally, even though I've already talked about the barriers in equity, in language, and all of that, there are going to be culture barriers that I know, just realistically speaking, cannot be something that production can even be the most inclusive on. Because there's going to be relationships with queens that are from similar parts of the world. The European queens are going to be similar to each other. Even Pythia had a connection with Athena because of her heritage. And the queens who speak English natively are going to be the ones who are quicker at making comments. So they are going to take up a lot more of the talking time because they're able to do that. I mean, I think Kitty has really become a narrator for this season so early. And I think part of it is that she always has something witty and snappy to say. And part of that's her personality, but part of it is that some queens have to think, in their first language first to then, communicate in their second language and tell you how they actually feel. I think the Gagno Pinelli was a prime example. First of all, she's more introverted, but second of all, she's clearly having a struggle trying to say things. And while she was like, oh, I didn't say everyone, she did. But, she doesn't remember those words as clearly because those are not the words that she would use in her language. And I think it's hard for queens whose second language is English to really compete at this level, especially in these challenges that are going to be very language focused, like acting and comedy. And I don't know if I'm going to really like those episodes much at all. Part of that feels like it wouldn't be able to go down easy in an edit, but also part of it seems like something that they could control. By focusing on a lot of star power type things, like a talent show, like a dancing challenge, like a singing challenge, like a design challenge, these challenges that don't necessarily rely on language as much. I hope that is what we see going forward. So I've seen online that a lot of people find the editing short. It's been helpful for me to watch them in close succession, but I do think for a show that's going directly to streaming, it makes no sense why the editing is so short. Why is it 52 minutes when you could have a longer Untucked, get into drama, international drama? Come on, like, people want to see that. And you'd also get more time seeing those runways. I feel like I don't remember anything that anyone's wearing on the runway because those cuts are so short. I don't really understand why it's so short, but I would appreciate a longer episode. I don't think that's going to change mid-season, but I don't really see why it's cut so short for something that really could be longer, and they could just leave more stuff in. I think we'd understand a lot more of what's going on because we're already losing stuff from language barriers, from the fact that there's 12 queens, the fact that there is just a lot going on, especially early season, that we can't really see all that's sticking. And I feel like Drag Race watchers can handle a lot of different timelines and storylines going on all at once. I think we could handle that. So I would like to see it in a longer format in future iterations of this. And I hope that even though we've had these issues so far, I hope this doesn't mean that we don't do Global All-Stars in the future. If they are doing an International Hall of Fame pavilion, I think they should have more than just one person there. So in addition to them fixing the things I clearly have said, I do have some thoughts of who I would like to see go far. First and foremost, I would love to see Galavero. I don't know if that's a long shot at this point because she and Tessa are the only two who haven't gotten a bottom or a high. I feel like it might just be a safe going, but I think it feels like it shouldn't be because of how good of a lip sync assassin is. I don't want to see her play from the bottom. I would love to see her doing a top 2 lip sync. I would have loved to see her do that top 2 lip sync. But I need to see her shine. She's fine as hell. Like, please, let's just see that talent. Like I said, I also see Alyssa going far. If she doesn't go far, I'm not heartbroken on it. I just think it's extremely likely that she will. I think Nelly will make the finale. And I would love to see Ava Le Queen go far. I made this prediction list before anyone went home, but after the first 2 episodes, and Ava Le Queen clearly did great on the talent show. That I would love to see more of that talent show. I think in the middle we have Queen, Vanity, Kitty, and so I don't really see it for Vanity. I just see production going for Vanity. She clearly seems like the continental Europe starlet, and I don't know. She's fine for me, but she's not who I'm watching for. I did have Miranda going home being 11th, and I did have Athena going home 9th. I put Tessa in last. This recent episode really wasn't about her at all, but I think they are saving her a bit for the drama. She is giving the drama. She's the youngest there, and she's from Germany, so the humor style of Germans is very interesting. I'll let you figure it out what that means. But yeah, from my experience, she's living up to the experiences that I've had while in Germany. I think that concludes my check-in on Global All-Stars. I would love to hear all of your thoughts down in the comments below. I hope that the season progresses lovely. I hope that some of my non-native English-speaking queens do extremely well, because that's really what I want to watch this season, is to see these queens from other franchises do extremely well. I can see that that seems quite unlikely given the favoritism so far, but I hope it changes up for the month of September. So if you like this video, then I'll check back in with you next month. If you like this video, please like it. Please comment down below which I've been to do next on my channel. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not already and you'd like to be. And thanks for watching. This is TurtleStormer. Catch you later.